In a rather surprising turn of events, Star Wars Hunters has just appeared at GDC, which is the game development convention happening right now. A couple of hours ago, Unreal Engine had their showcase panel where we see tons of new stuff regarding Dune Awakening and the new Captain America and Black Panther game from Skydance New Media. And Star Wars Hunters was there as well, which I really was not expecting. But in that talk, there were a few new details, so I'm going to go over that in today's video. But before I do, make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on to never miss a piece of Star Wars Hunters news. We could be getting an update next week, so make sure you don't miss out on that. So this here is Rich Kemp, and he's a senior art director at Boss Alien, who are the developers behind Star Wars Hunters. And he is the one that gave the talk and revealed some interesting details, so I'll let this sort of play in the background as I talk over these things. But one of the things that he reiterates is the fact that with Star Wars Hunters, with the characters that they're creating, they're going for typical Star Wars archetypes. So things like Jedi, Sith, Bounty Hunter, and just overall really familiar things for Star Wars fans to be able to pick out on, but also for those of you who don't really know Star Wars that well, it makes it easy to distinguish that it is Star Wars. You can see Sentinel here with the Stormtrooper, for example, and everyone knows that that's a Stormtrooper, so that's what they're ultimately going for with the characters in this game, which I think is definitely the right decision. But that doesn't mean there aren't some obscure ones. You saw Diego there with the cloth over his eyes and stuff, and his species is Miraluka, who are a pretty force-sensitive near-human species, basically, which I'd say is definitely pretty unique, but I thought that was definitely worth mentioning. Now, another thing that he mentioned in this talk is the fact that they've revamped their lighting systems and the visuals and everything like that. So now the improved visuals is something that we as players of the soft launch have noticed for quite a long time now. I think it was either in the update last June or potentially September where that was fully integrated. Maybe they've improved it even more, but since an update last year, the game looks honestly incredible, especially for a stylized Star Wars mobile game. It looks so much fun. As you can see here, this is some in-engine testing that they were doing, and the game does look really nice. So as well as lighting, they've also been able to improve materials and things like that in the game, so textures look great as well. And as you can see here, this is the part where in the talk he starts talking about the lighting, so you can really see all the rays and everything and just how nice it really looks. And as well as that, they've also been utilizing the post-processing features and cinematic tools inside of Unreal Engine to create marketing assets, which is where a lot of the trailers have been coming from, I think, in the September update and in the update we had back in January. And those trailers have been really cool, and this shot in particular is gorgeous. I mean, it's probably one of the best looking things we've seen from Star Wars Hunters marketing stuff. So if they release another trailer somewhat soon for this game and it's that kind of quality, then like I'm really impressed and really excited to see that. So hopefully that is something we get to see, as I'm always a huge fan of trailers. And then finally, at the very end of the panel, Rich says that we can't wait to see you all on Android, iOS and Nintendo Switch in the arena soon, indicating that the game will actually be releasing somewhat soon, which is really exciting. I know soon can mean absolutely anything. It could mean at the end of the year, it could mean next year, but the fact that they've been at GDC here talking about all this stuff, you know, the game has been in soft launch for almost 2.5 years now, so it is constantly feeling even more ready to release. And I think it's very likely we'll be getting an update next Tuesday anyway, on March 26th, which is when a bunch of store items that have had timers for like 60 plus days since January 9th runs out. So it looks like we will very likely get an update, which means it will be even more closer to launch, and hopefully after that then we'll hopefully get a new trailer with a release date and everything. With the tools at their disposal, it looks like they can go pretty hard on marketing stuff, so I'm really excited to see what kind of things they do from this. Personally, I think this talk is absolutely worth looking into. Even if you're not into game development, I think it's really interesting to see the behind the scenes of this game, and it also just shows off some cool stuff. So in the Unreal Engine talk, it's about 50 minutes through and it lasts about 3 minutes, so definitely check it out if you can. And the final thing that I did want to note is that it looks like they've changed some things in terms of the overall gameplay. So Reeve herself, in fact, we're on Reeve right now, and J3, it looks like their blocking will be changing quite significantly. Now, if you look in the bottom left corner over here in a second, you'll see J3 blocking Sentinel shots, which is very different to how it looks currently, and it looks a lot more focused, so we might be able to then choose exactly where the target goes. Reeve's block here that you can see is also very different, but it also looks like it's a manual block, which is not what was in the game currently. currently. At the moment, Reeve's block is a passive that just kind of happens if you start shooting at her and there's a stamina bar. But now it looks very different, which is going to be really interesting to see if that's implemented in this next update or whether that's just going to be in the game at launch. And finally, it looks as though some hunters, or maybe all of them, are actually going to be losing some abilities. So if you take a look at J3 here, he's got the false pull, the deflecting stance, and spare parts. So J3 here also at the moment has an overhead slam, which he clearly doesn't have here. So it looks like we are going to be losing that ability for J3, which is a bit of a shame because that's come in pretty clutch for me. And then if you look at the abilities for Imara here, she doesn't have her scanning ability anymore. But interestingly enough, Reeve still has 3 active abilities. She has her leap, her lightsaber throw, and her dash attack. So Reeve's got 3 active abilities plus the passive, but then Imara's only got 1 active ability and the passive. And then Scorer here has her dash, and then her boosted stim shot, and not the multiple darts shot either. So I don't really know if they're keeping all 4 abilities, or 3 active plus passive for Reeve, but then some only have 2. I don't really know what's going on there. I guess if it's in the update next week, we'll find out. It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm very much reserving my judgment for now, honestly. It's one of those things that I could easily be like, oh, this is terrible, this is not going to work. But I think it's definitely best to just sort of hold off judgment and see how it works, because if they've been testing it and they feel it's a better game, then I'm absolutely interested in trying that out myself and providing feedback, because if it doesn't work, then hopefully they can revert those changes and we can get those abilities back. But we will just have to wait and see. Like I said, Star Wars Hunters should be getting an update next week where we may see a lot of this stuff implemented, and hopefully launch will actually be coming very, very soon. But like I said, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any news on this game. That is it from me today though. Thank you for watching, and may the force be with you always.